What's good, everybody? Welcome into another edition of a weekend bet and breakfast. We got day two NBA stuff. It's me, Donnavan, Smoot, got the homie Peter Dewey. Peter, what's going on, man?
Bro, I'm doing good. We had some great playoff games yesterday. Honestly, outside of the
Fantastic.
the Sixers game was a little bit of a blowout, but other than that, some really good games last night. Was fun to watch Steph come back. Just all in all, I think like we were talking about yesterday, like playing into the playoffs was like very good momentum of like great start for the NBA. Like there was no like clunker games. All the stars pretty much played really well. So I'm excited for today. I think we got some even better matchups on the slate today for sure.
Yeah, I think. Listen, I'm right there with you. I think today's slate of NBA games are going to be great. We're going to take you guys through all of the games. We're going to recap yesterday. Obviously, we're going to hit you guys with our best bets for today. But here's where I want to start because yesterday was very, very interesting. For one thing, all of the young guys were hooping yesterday,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Anthony Edwards, he has his playoff debut. He goes for 36. Ja, in a losing effort, he goes for 30. Seemed like he was getting whatever he wanted at the rim at will. Tyrese Maxey puts the city of Philadelphia on his back, right? Jordan Poole ends the night with the 30
Mhm.
piece. Like, which one of those performances was your favorite? And then even moving forward, out of all of them, who's going to be the best?
Ooh, all right. I'll start. So last night I texted you this. So I'll start with my favorite was it had to be Tyrese Maxey because I texted you last night and I
Yeah.
said he might be the second best player on the Sixers, and you're like, I don't know if I'm ready to be out on James Harden, but that dude, I mean, he was fantastic yesterday. Like if he plays like that, like I know we both talked yesterday how like the Raptors can win this series, and I still think they can. But if Tyrese Maxey plays like that, they definitely can. Like they if he's going to score 30 points that efficiently, he's hitting threes from 35 feet. He's getting to the rim at will, finishing through contact. Like they didn't need like Embiid to go crazy yesterday. He played great, but like it was just Maxi killed them. And then like Harden did get his, like he hit a couple threes late in the game. He got to the rim, but I mean it was a Tyrese Maxey show. Like they were going crazy. They were chanting Maxi the entire second half. Basically, it was wild. That was probably my favorite performance, but I think the most impactful one I'd say is Jordan Poole, just because I think how well he played. Like the Warriors are a title contender, dude. Like they are a legitimate like title contender with him, Steph, and Clay. And so I think the Jordan Poole performance to me is like the one that you can see like going forward. I'm like, okay, like if he plays like this, like they're gonna be an impossible out. I don't know if Maxi keeps playing like that, but it was very fun to watch. So I'm intrigued what you think for sure.
Okay, so if we're just talking about my favorite was Maxi.
Okay.
My favorite was Maxi. There's something about like, and it's weird. I'm not comparing him at all to this guy, but like when Steph goes off at home, it's just different, right? Like it
Hmm.
when Steph is going on, it's just different. Even when Embiid is going for 40, or if Harden finally decides to have a great game, it seems like Philly doesn't have their hands wrapped around the player like they do with Tyrese.
Hmm.
It just feels so much more fun. He's so much younger. Everyone's like, oh, it's just he's the young kid. Like we're just gonna, have fun, support him. So that was like my favorite was Maxi going off, even though that I picked the Raptors to win that game and they completely, did every by the way, I went 0 for 4 yesterday. Terrible way to start the playoffs, but it's okay. Bounce back days happen.
Bounce back
Minor
days.
minor setback, major comeback. My what I think is going to be the best. I think that out of those four, Ja is going to be the best
Okay.
moving
Yeah,
forward
I'd agree with that. I'd agree with that.
because even in that up and down game, like Ja was getting his whenever he wanted at the rim, and and even I thought that he could have had more because I think that early on in that game, Minnesota was being very, very physical with him,
Hmm.
and they weren't really calling it. I think he was still adjusting to playoff basketball a little bit, but if he starts to figure out, okay, this is where I can get my spot in the playoffs, this is where I can go, or if he, develops that range from outside, yeah, I think Ja's gonna be him. Like if I had to rank him from yesterday, it would be Ja and Poole and then Maxi.
Okay.
Um,
I don't
but
disagree with that.
yeah,
I think Ant's ceiling is extremely high. You make a great point about Ja though. Like they roughed him up yesterday. I just don't know how much longer he can go in this series playing with like that reckless abandon. Like he's gonna get beat up, and we know he already had the knee issue coming into the playoffs. But like he missed a bunch of games of the regular season, so that worries me a little bit. But more so for the Memphis side of things, just like I know Ant was cooking yesterday, and I know Cat was too. Memphis didn't play a lick of defense yesterday compared to what I
no,
expected. Like they couldn't defend anybody. So like that's part of the reason why I think the Maxey performance was so impressive because I didn't think the Raptors played great defensively, but he was also just making like tough shot after tough shot after tough shot. Like it was crazy, man. I like, can't get over that third quarter he had was just it was electric. Like that was you make a great point about like the crowd getting fired up too because it was like that was like the one of those playoff performances where it's like just give this guy the ball and get out of the way and it's like I can't
yeah,
believe I'm saying about that about year 2 Tyrese Maxey. Like I never
exactly.
expected I'd be saying that in a playoff game.
Nah, like there's a very very specific reason why they were like, you can take anybody else, you can take Seth Curry, you can take Andre Drummond, who cares? But like you can't take Maxi away from us because it's gonna be for games like yesterday. And
Mhm.
then another name that I want to throw in there for today, he didn't play yesterday, but he plays today. That I think will be in that conversation moving forward, and is honestly the best right now is Trey Young.
Oh yeah.
And so I think Trey's gonna, if we add him to that pool of those four players, I think Trey's ceiling is gonna be the highest. I think he's already the best. Just his combination of like of shooting, passing. He's top five in points and assists. You
Led
know,
the
like
league.
he's
Led the league this year
exactly
in totals. Crazy.
exactly. So like if he can be there, and it's gonna be very interesting, and we'll get into it later when we start, when we break down the games, but seeing what Trey Young is going to be able to do on a playoff stage for a second straight year, that's going to be super super interesting. But I want to get to the games from yesterday. We've talked about it a little bit. I want to start. I want to start in Memphis
Mhm.
because I think that was the one of the more interesting matchups yesterday. Obviously, I said I went 0 for 4. I thought Memphis was going to sweep, and Minnesota just came out on fire. Ant was killing them. Cat, they had no answer for Karl Anthony Towns. Jaren Jackson got into foul trouble. One, do you think this is sustainable for Minnesota? And two, where does Memphis go from here?
Yeah, so the first thing, the sustainable. I had said yesterday I thought they could get it to 6. I still 100% think that. The thing for me is Minnesota came out and they punched them in the mouth. They made everything in the first quarter. I think they shot over 60% in the first quarter. So like that to me isn't sustainable, but at the same time like Ant and Cat having big games, like they led the league in points per game. They take the most threes in the NBA. They make the most threes in the NBA. They don't shoot the highest percentage, but like this is how they play. And so the thing that frustrated me if I'm a Memphis fan and a Memphis better yesterday is just Memphis, the defensive effort wasn't there. They're 6th in the league in defensive rating, and it just wasn't there yet. They gave up way too many easy baskets, especially in transition. And like you knew the Wolves, again, we talked about this on the show yesterday. Wolves play at the fastest pace in the NBA. And Memphis like was like lackadaisical getting back, where it was like the Wolves were like, we're going to get the rebound. We're going to go. And they were just getting open looks from three. Like it was Malik Beasley, it was Jaden McDaniels. Like Ant was getting some good looks. Where like Russell was just pushing the ball in transition. And Memphis was kind of like, we got 2 guys back and everybody's trailing the play. And like, they're not going to win if they do that. So transition defense is the first spot I think they have to fix because that's how you can get Minnesota out of their game. You have to make them play in the half court. They don't want to play in the half court more often than not. So that's the way I think you limit them. And like you have to force. Ant was fantastic yesterday, but you have to force him and D'Lo to play in the half court and take contested tough jumpers. Like if you're letting them get easy buckets in transition, you're limiting the amount of times they have to take those shots. And then when they make them, it's like a backbreaker. So that for me was the biggest takeaway I had. I don't think like Memphis is out of this by any stretch of the imagination. Like these are just 2, I think, very good offensive teams. It's going to be a good series. But yeah, I was shocked by the defense. They just didn't defend the entire game. Like even in the fourth quarter in crunch time, like Minnesota was getting whatever they wanted. They were just like, okay, we'll get a dunk. We get like Beasley had the wide open dunk when they were up 8. Then McDaniels gets the 3, the dagger. Like they got whatever they wanted yesterday. So Memphis got to tighten up on that side of the ball.
Yeah, And so the two things that stood out for me was one, what you just said, is that they were just letting them go up and down, and
Mhm.
the effort wasn't really there. I didn't see a lot of adjustments from Memphis, because even in the second half, after Ant had about like 25, and he's cooking from outside. Why are you still going under the screen? Why are you still letting him shoot every single time? And you're just giving him all the space to set up and launch these threes. And so that was one. Two, Jaren Jackson got into foul trouble, and I know like that's been an issue with him in the past, and so it's like it's not something that you can just write off.
Mhm.
But yo, if Jaren Jackson stays on the floor, if he doesn't get three in the first, X amount of minutes, and now he has to sit for the rest of the first half and can't really play in the second half, then I think this game looks a little bit different, because I thought I thought that Steven Adams would have done a better job than what he did. Not like lockdown cat, but I mean a little bit more.
Yeah.
Obviously, like you want Jaren Jackson there to play cat, because he, just speed wise he can move around with him a little bit more. That's the one thing that I'm wondering is Jaren Jackson going to be able to stay on the floor? And I think that if he is, then Memphis can get this and kind of wrap things up and start playing defense the way that they wanted to. It felt like they were scrambling the whole time,
Mhm.
and so I'm not sure that I'm gonna like bank on Memphis. Not Memphis. I'm not gonna bank on Minnesota just scoring 41 points in every first quarter, but it is something to think about when you talk about how fast that they play and being able to
Mhm.
slow them down and having a potential defensive player of the year on the floor. You
Yeah.
know,
No, yeah, I agree 100%. It's really gonna come down to, Memphis got punched in the mouth yesterday, and they responded, and they brought it back in the second quarter, but I think it took a lot out of them to get. I mean, they went down, what, 13, 14, like, real quick. It was, like, 30-17. So, that's the adjustment, but Taylor Jenkins has done a good job with his team the whole year, so I don't think it's there's sometimes when you see something happen in a series and you're like, "Ah, that's a tell," like, they're not gonna be able to compete. I think they're gonna be fine. They'll score with them. They just you can't let them just get easy transition baskets time and time again.
yeah. So I think that Memphis is going to be fine. They'll probably move on to the next round. If they do, they'll most likely play the Golden State Warriors in the second round. That matchup is going to be crazy, especially consider. And we talked about it earlier with Poole. Yo, if Poole's going, and if Poole's scoring 30, and if Steph can get back to a healthy level, this is scary. This is
Very scary.
scary, right? Like I don't know if if Poole's going, I don't know if there's a team in the West that can stop him. And even though that I picked the even though that I picked the Bucks, if Poole is on his game, and obviously like I'm not asking him to score 30 a night, but if he's going and Steph is going, I think they might get the chip, maybe.
I could see it. I could see it. I said a lot yesterday on the show, and I tweeted it yesterday during the Jordan Poole is the
I,
best number 3 that's not Kevin Durant on the Warriors. Is
yeah, I think you texted it to me too. You've been pushing this agenda very
Yeah.
heavily.
I mean, dude, he's just his and the thing is not just scoring, there were, I one of my, somebody, I forgot if they responded to me on Twitter or somebody texted me and they're like, "This is a little disrespectful," or somebody DM me on Twitter and they're like, "This is disrespectful to, 2015 Harrison Barnes." And I was like, "Dude, Harrison Barnes wasn't creating for other guys though, and,
Yeah,
making his own shots." Like, yeah, Harrison Barnes was great off the ball, with Steph and Clay. Like, Jordan Poole is, facilitating the offense. They didn't start Steph last night because they're trying to ease him back in. And, Jordan Poole is like, "Okay, I'll do it." He is very, very good. And so that for me, I'm debating putting a future on the Warriors after watching that game. Like, if Steph is healthy, because he looked good. He didn't have a lot of touch around the rim, I think, and he was you could see him during the game. He kept doing this after he was shooting
yeah,
floaters. It was clear that he was just trying to get back into it, but he still played well. I think he finished with 16 points in less than 24 minutes. They're dangerous, man. And the thing we were talking about right before the show is they went 10 deep yesterday. They didn't play Jonathan Kuminga and they didn't play Moses Moody. Moody hasn't played as much in the rotation, but Kuminga's been a full year rotation piece for them. And Steve Kerr was like, "I'm gonna roll with Iguodala and Otto Porter," rightfully so. The veteran presence, they're gonna be more consistent. and they went 10 deep yesterday. And it's like, how many teams in the NBA can go 10 deep? And like, it's a good 10 deep. Like, they're going 10 deep, and it's not like, oh, there's a weak link out there. Like, they went 10 deep, and you're like, yeah, they probably could have went 12 if they really wanted to. So that's what scares me with Golden State. They are so good when they're healthy. And if they stay healthy, they're going to be real tough in the playoffs.
Dude, I'm watching it, and I'm trying to temper my expectations because, like, you know, it's day one of the playoffs, and like I love the overreaction where it's like, oh yeah, like they just beat up on Denver. I'm throwing the money on the future. I love it, but like it's Denver, and so
Yeah.
like I want to see them, you know, and it's like they don't have to prove themselves. They're the Warriors, but like I want to see what happens if they play kind of a little bit more competent team
Mm-hmm.
than Denver. But that was last night. That's how last night ended. We have a full slate of games today. All of them are fantastic. So we're gonna start in the East. Once again, this game is gonna tip off in a little bit under an hour and 45 minutes. We got Hawks Heat from South Beach, right? Heat were -6.5. They're now -7. Clint Capella's obviously going to be out. Do you
John Collins
see,
is in, though, which is good. That's
which is
big.
very big, very big. Do you see Atlanta having a chance in this game?
Quick answer, no. I bet Miami -6.5 last night, and for those of you who've been following us over at BetSide, I've been on this trend all year. Atlanta's 0-39 against the spread when it loses. So I think Miami's gonna win game one, and so I'm not even gonna bother putting money on the Hawks to cover because they don't when they lose. So that's my bet in this game is I took the Heat -6.5. I just think Atlanta off these last two games, like you had to play the play-in games. The 9-10 plan is a little bit of a disadvantage because you only get the 1 day off to prepare. I mean, you knew you were playing Miami before, I guess, but like you only get the 1 day off. They had to play 2 games last week. Miami's well rested, which is probably a good thing for them because they've been banged up all year. And just the Heat are a deep team. Like we talk about how deep the Warriors are. Like Miami, they're really deep. And now that Oladipo's back, not that he's, all-star Oladipo, but he gives you a little bit more of a bench presence if you need more scoring. Like you could go to him or Gabe Vincent, depending upon matchups, whatever you want to do. And then obviously, Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero, Max Strus. Like then I didn't even mention Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, Kyle Lowry. Like they are deep as hell. And they have a good defensive team. They're top 5 in the league in defense. I can see Atlanta hanging around because I just think Trey Young he's that good. But no Capella, like Bam might dominate this game because Okongwu is a very good defensive player. I actually like him more than Capella. I wish they would start him. The issue is when he goes to the bench, Gorgie Dang is not checking Bam Adebayo. I don't care. Like that's just not going to work. So if John Collins, I can't see him giving them more than 20 minutes. He hasn't played in a minute. He's still hurt. Like he's playing through the injury. I just don't know in the front court, like if they'll be able to stop Bam, if Jimmy gets downhill, like I just don't think they have the bodies there. And Miami at home they're really good at home. So I like laying the points with the Heat here, but I said yesterday, like I don't think this is gonna be like a sweep, but I just don't see it for Atlanta in game one.
Yeah, I don't see it. I don't see it today either because if you look at the two playing games, so they're at home against Charlotte, who doesn't play a lick of defense,
Mm-hmm.
and then against Cleveland, you're able to come back because as Cleveland has been all season long, as good as they've been, we said this yesterday, they have like one offensive engine in Garland. And so if Garland isn't doing everything, if he starts to decline by any stretch, Atlanta was able to fight their way back. Obviously, Trey Young was spectacular, but it's really like they have one engine and then that's
Mm-hmm.
it. You have Jimmy Butler, you have Tyler Hero, you have Kyle Lowry on the other side, and like you said, the top 5 defensive team. So I don't feel like there's going to be a lot of those points, especially if Miami comes out and punches them in the mouth. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think that there's going to be a lot of opportunities for Atlanta to jump back into this game and say, oh, well, we can attack them here, we can attack them here. The rim protection isn't necessarily going to be there without Capella. And so I don't. Maybe McMillan makes an adjustment, but that's more of a game 2 kind of thing.
Yeah.
And Miami's won 3 out of the 4 games this season. They won the last one very closely. And I think it went Miami won the first two, Atlanta won, and then Miami won the last game. So I think Atlanta, if anything, they'll keep it close for the first half. I just don't think they have enough to keep it close for the entire game.
Yeah, I like I agree. I think that the thing with Atlanta and Miami, like the Cavs, the Cavs are a slightly worse defensive Miami team. Like they play very similar. They play like slow pace, try and like muck it up on defense. The difference is I think Miami matches up better with Atlanta. Like the Cavs were playing Markkanen, Allen, Mobley, and like we talk about the Hawks, like their wings between Bogey and DeAndre Hunter and Gallinari. Like those aren't great matchups for any of those guys. They're going to take them off the perimeter. Obviously, Mobley and Allen are great defenders, but it's not the exact matchup you want. Like PJ Tucker is going to have whoever, like Jimmy Butler is going to match up with whoever, like however they want to like match up. Like they have a bunch of really, really good defenders. And then you just have Bam as the 5. And it's like, yeah, when the Hawks try to adjust, if they try to go small, like Miami can counter that very easily. I just think like if Miami plays this game the way they want to, they're 28th in pace this year. If they slow this game down, I just don't see a scenario where like Atlanta's offense is like overpowering them. Like I think the Heat are just going to be too good, especially since Capella's out. Like they're going to be shorthanded in the front court. It's just not a good matchup. I think going in after having to play 2 games in the last 4 days too.
Yeah, I think the only way that Atlanta gets it is if what happens last year happens this year, where they just catch fire from 3 and they just can't miss. Right, because that's the only way that they got through Philly. Obviously the Knicks series
and the Knicks too, though they couldn't miss against the Knicks. I mean,
well,
they would have beat them probably anyway, but
yeah, because the Knicks had no offense.
Exactly.
Right? And like if Randall was being doubled, they can't do anything. We don't need to go on the Knicks tangent because I know you and I can for sure fill the rest of this time with Knicks talk. But let's move on to the other New York basketball team. Right, this is going to be the
Fighting Reed Wallachs.
Yeah, the Fighting Reed Wallachs. This is going to be the matchup of the first round with Brooklyn and Boston. Boston is a 4-point favorite today in Game 1 at home. You were saying before that Reed has kind of talked you into like just going all in on the Nets. Do you feel that way in Game 1?
Yeah, Reed's been he's been brainwashing me via Slack message, text message, Twitter, whatever it is, with all these positive net stats. And I ended up not making a pick on this game. I just really don't like 4 points. I just really could see it go either way. Brooklyn's defense has been better the past like month or so. And but obviously we know Boston's got the number 1 defense in the league. The thing that I keep coming back to is the Nets played like the perfect game against the Cavs in the play-in, and they couldn't run away with it. And like that's been their MO all year. Like they don't run away with games. But like the Cavs are much worse than the Celtics. And like KD was perfect. Kyrie didn't miss a shot for like 3 quarters. Bruce Brown nearly had a triple-double, and they won by 8. And so that makes me nervous against this Boston team. Like, even without Robert Williams, the Celtics are going to switch everything. The thing I've noticed in this game, I want to get your take on this. If the starting lineups, if both coaches want to stick with their normal starting lineups, so the Nets go Kyrie, Seth Curry, Durant, Bruce Brown, and either Drummond or Claxton. The Celtics go Smart, Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Horford, and Tice. If you look at like how you match up, who does Seth Curry play? Like, do the Nets have to play zone? Because like if you match it up, like you either have to put Seth Curry or Kyrie on like Jaylen Brown, which is a horrendous matchup if you're the Nets. And if you're also the Celtics, if that's the case, you're just going to hunt Seth every single time. So I'm very intrigued matchups wise this series going forward, how these two coaches adjust. Is Steve Nash going to try and make Ime Udoka play small? Is it going to be vice versa? I really don't know like what the Nets necessarily like go to is. Like, I guess you go Kessler Edwards maybe a little bit more, but at the same time, I feel like if that's the Celtics, like if they have to play Kessler Edwards, that's a win for us. Like that's who we want on the floor. So intrigued to see how both coaches kind of play that matchup. As for a bet in this game, I took Marcus Smart under 14.5 points. He's failed to get this line in 9 of his last 11. Some of those games, Jason Tatum was out as well, and he's actually been taking more shots per game over that stretch than he has the whole season, shooting under 40% over that stretch. He's averaging only 12.1 a game. The Nets are probably going to leave him a few times tonight and like dare him to make shots. 14.5. I don't think he scores 15 points in this game, even if he's chugging. I just don't see it.
That's good, and I like the smart prop and the what you talk about with the Curry angle. That's very interesting. I think you just have to roll with it and kind of just eat it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that you would put Kyrie on Jaylen Brown, and
Okay.
I think you would put Kyrie on Jaylen Brown, and then put Seth on Marcus, and kind of just roll with that because with Kyrie, and I don't want to sit here and act like Kyrie's some defensive stopper, right? But he's gotten better as a defender throughout his career, and he's not as much of a liability. And so if it's gonna happen anyways, it's gonna happen anyways in terms of like Boston going out and hunting whatever matchup that they want. So I think if you start off with Kyrie on Brown and you just put yourself in that position early, it allows you to then create the matchup that you want behind Kyrie
Mm-hmm.
or behind Curry. And so then it's like, okay, well, Kyrie, go out and do your best, but just know if Jalen does get you, we're already going to be prepared for that rather than starting him on Smart and then you get switches and then now everybody's out of position and
Yeah.
people are scrambling. So
Makes
I
sense.
think that's the way to go. In terms of a bet, I think Reed's propaganda has gotten to me as well. I was this close to picking Boston in this series because of what the fact that Brooklyn can't close out games or that they can't hold leads. It kind of does scare me, especially with the team with somebody as good as Tatum and Brown. But I just couldn't pick against KD. I
Yeah,
couldn't
that's
pick
fair.
against KD and Kyrie. Like the first 3 quarters of what we saw in the playing game, where Kyrie's going for 30 and KD's an afterthought, and it's Kevin
Yeah.
Durant. And
Yeah.
this is like this is the greatness of Durant, in that he could just be the greatest, the greatest wingman of all time in spots. I just think that Brooklyn has too much high end scoring for I'm taking Kevin Durant and Kyrie at the scoring duo over Tatum and Brown every day of the week.
Yeah.
And so I just have to lean there. So for today, I think I'm gonna lean Brooklyn +4. I think they keep it close. Boston is 18-21-2 at home this year against the spread. So I mean, it's not like a terrible home record. They're not like the Nets at home,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but I think I think coming off a really good game against Cleveland, Brooklyn is kind of figuring out, okay, this how we're gonna go, and so I'm expecting them to go on at least one major run and keep the game close from there.
Yeah,
You know?
I don't hate that play at all. I really just I didn't know like if I could really pick a side. I think the Nets do the same thing to the Celtics that we talked about with what like the Celtics could do to the Nets. Like I'm sure they're just gonna hunt Tyson pick and roll until Udoka takes him
Probably.
out. Like
Yeah,
so it's going to be an interesting series. But like if you like you said, if you had to tell me I'm picking between Kevin Durant or anybody else, I'm taking the team that has Kevin Durant. Like that's
yeah.
just the way it works.
Like at the end of the day, like in the playoffs, stars matter, and the Nets have the star power in this one. And so if Bruce Brown and Seth Curry can do a couple things to support him, I think it'll be okay. If we want to talk about star power, this next series, right? We go to the Bulls and the Bucks, and this line is so interesting to me because this is the 3-6 matchup,
Mm,
right? This is a 3-6 matchup, and the only other game that is minus 10.5 is Suns Pelicans, and they are literally treat like the way that the Bull season has flipped this year
yeah.
is insane. They're getting treated like an 8 seed, Peter. They like, or not even like a
I think
9 seed.
yeah.
Like a no, wait, were
Yeah.
yeah, the Pelicans were
Pelicans
9,
are
right?
9. Yeah.
Right, yeah. So they're getting treated like a 9 seed. I I'm taking the Bucks minus 10.5. I don't think that Chicago has anything for them. I think that they've shown all year they can't handle like actually good basketball teams. They have no answer for Giannis. This might be like a 35-point Giannis performance, and I don't think Chicago will do anything. How
Yeah,
do you see this?
I don't know how Chicago matches up defensively. Like they have nothing for Giannis. Like Vooch is gonna get played off the floor at points almost because they're just gonna. I genuinely don't know what they do like defensively. And you look at the Bulls over their last 10, they're 26th in offensive rating and 28th in defensive rating. That's like one of the worst teams in the NBA. Like they stink. They were
Yeah.
7-15 after the All Star break. Like I mean, they're not good right now. Losing Lonzo Ball has like killed them on both ends of the floor. Like he facilitated the offense. They don't have him as that lead guard defender. And like the difference in the beginning of the year when Lonzo, Caruso, Levine, and DeRozan all were healthy, you were able to switch everything like 1 through 3, who depending upon whoever was in the game, and like it made them really tough. And like I hate to use the Knicks as an example, but like when they played the Knicks, they were throwing like a different defender at Julius Randle every game. And then they were doing that against other teams too, where like it would be like they would throw Lonzo one possession, then Caruso the next possession, then DeMar the next possession. And like, I mean, one, you keep your guys fresh, and two, like the other team is just like, holy crap, like what are we gonna do? They're gonna double sometimes, they won't double, they'll play them straight up. Like they got faster, quicker guys. They just don't have that. Like it's just not there anymore. Bucks have way too much firepower offensively in this matchup. I mean, both you and I think the Bucks are going to the finals again, so that's like not even we're on the same page. I haven't bet this game. I'm saving my actual bet in this game for best bets, but I haven't bet this game the full game. But I would definitely lean Bucks 10.5. I was hoping it would get down to 10 or 9.5 because I just the double digits is it's a little daunting.
It's
Like you said, it's
scary,
a
yeah.
3-6 matchup. Like you just don't expect it to be a blowout. But then again, saw the Warriors last night smoke the Nuggets in a 3-6 matchup. So Milwaukee is far and away the better team here, and the Bulls just haven't beaten anybody who has been in the top 8 in the league this year, standings wise. So yeah, I feel bad for Bulls fans because like you got the taste of like, oh, this team could be really good, and they've faded so much. It's like, yeah, they're gonna be like they're not going anywhere. They're gonna be one and done. They might get a game. Like I don't know. It's gonna be weird. This is the most lopsided matchup I think of the day for sure.
Yeah, and listen, we're gonna check it on Ben Heisler later and see
Yeah.
how he's doing because his Bulls are gonna get smoked. I don't know if they win a game. I think my two sweeps would have been this one, and then yesterday I thought Memphis was gonna sweep Minnesota. That obviously didn't happen. But I just like you said, defensively, where do they go? Because DeRozan on Giannis is not a good thing.
Yeah, no.
Levine can't hold him. Vucevic is gonna look like a child against Giannis. I just think
Or
that this is
Patrick
gonna
Williams, man. They're gonna throw Patrick Williams to the wolves, and
you have
yeah.
to. Honestly, that's literally the only chance that you have. It's either that or you play a zone for this entire series, and that's honestly the only chance that you get is like, you know what, we're just not going to guard you one-on-one and see if you can break whatever zone, and we're not going to put our guys in positions to get blown by every single time, and you're going to have to be a little bit more methodical to do it. That's the only way that I see them having a chance in this series. But if I'm being realistic, I don't think they have. I think they have zero chance of winning this series.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think we talk about like teams' death lineups a lot. Like what's their closing lineup? Who are they going to go to? Like the Warriors, like yesterday they showed it's going to be Steph, Clay, Draymond, Poole, and Wiggins, and like that's a tough lineup. The Bucks, their best lineup is when Bobby Portis is the 5, and you go Holiday, Middleton, one of Grayson Allen or Pat Connaughton, probably Giannis and Bobby Portis.
Yeah,
and like the Bulls personnel just plays perfectly into the Bucks plan. Like they don't have to play Brook Lopez because Bobby P can hang with Vucevic well enough where it's like they're playing like 4 other guards basically around him. So you're not playing a team that's like, hey, we're gonna go like if they played like the Hawks, for example, where we're gonna go Capella and John Collins. It's like, yeah, you probably need a little bit more Brook Lopez out there on the floor, just like so Giannis isn't feeling like he's got to always be in the paint. You want him to be able to kind of roam and play that free safety role on defense. So this, I feel like if you're the Bulls or if you're the Bucks, you're like, we're going to play our lineup. We're going to play Bobby P a ton of minutes. And like, if they do go zone, you can spread the floor. You put Giannis in the middle and you just say, okay, Middleton, Drew, Grayson Allen, Bobby Portis. Like you can dare us to make shots. We got a bunch of guys who shoot 35+% from three. Like, sure. So I just don't think there's any counter for the Bulls in this series other than like DeMar goes nuclear every game. And like he did that for half the season and they still ended up with a 6 seed. So I don't see it happening.
Yeah, I think we're both on the same side here. Chicago, we're sorry. You have no chance to win the series. It's not our fault. Everybody got hurt. But so the last game of the night, also -10.5 spread. You got the number 1 seed Phoenix Suns, your eventual champions,
Yes.
versus the New Orleans Pelicans. I'm interested in this. I'm interested in this game a lot because I think both of us thought that this game was going to be Suns Clippers.
Yeah.
And
I wish it was Suns Clippers.
Yeah. Both of us were thinking it's going to be Suns Clippers. We get the pivot, and so it's Pelicans now. And can CJ McCollum have another first half the way that he did in the play-in? Is Brandon Ingram? I'm very excited to see Brandon Ingram like on this stage and keep doing what he's doing. Where do they go from here? And do you think that they're going to be able to get a game against Phoenix?
I don't know if they're going to be able to get a game. If I'm the Pelicans, I think they got to run offense through Brandon Ingram. I know CJ had a great game in that against the Spurs in that first playing game, but he was not good against the Clippers. And Brandon Ingram was solid in both. They blew that lead against the Clippers because they stopped going to Brandon Ingram because they were doubling him. It's like, you just got to keep going. He couldn't miss. He started 9 of 10. Like, he is their best player. I don't think like you can make the argument for CJ, but I think it's very clear Brandon Ingram is the best player. So he's got it, and he's also the biggest mismatch for Phoenix. Like, he's probably going to draw Mikal Bridges, but like he does have the size advantage there. So it's not the greatest match in the world. Mikal Bridges is probably all defensive first team this year, but like you could exploit that. I don't know how much you can exploit CJ on anybody, just like size wise. I don't really think like it's like they have like if they wanted to put Mikal on CJ, like that's a great matchup for the Suns. They will take that. So I could see the Suns covering this just because they've been so good at home this year. I believe they're 32-9. Straight up, and they win by like an average of 9 points per game at home. So obviously, like they are the better team. They're the best team in the NBA right now. But Pelicans intrigue me. Their offense looked a lot better, and they have some really good defenders. Like they can throw Herb Jones at Devin Booker, which will be interesting. So I think the Pels could maybe steal a game at home. And like, I mean, I don't think Zion's coming back, but if Zion came back, it would change a lot of things. But yeah, I just think tonight is like the Sun. I think the Suns win tonight. I'm just not sure if they cover. So I'll talk about my best bet for this game too after, but I want to hear what you have to say.
So I don't think they cover tonight.
Okay.
I don't think that happens. I think that Ingram, although I think one of the two is going to go off. Whoever Mikal Bridges is not guarding will have a good game. And I agree with you. I think Bridges is going to start out on Ingram, and you're going to have McCollum, just be able to do what he does. One of the things I thought was interesting in the play-in is when McCollum had that great game, he actually had a great first half, right? Like the second half, he tailed off. He went like 2 for 11 in the second half, had about 5 points. Most of his work was in the first half. I think he can do that again, and because – so what's going to happen is I think that Phoenix is going to come out and they're going to punch him in the mouth, and New Orleans is going to have to battle back. But CJ and what CJ's role on this team is going to have to be is he's going to have to be that veteran scorer who understands like, hey, this game is going to have ups and downs, and we're going to have to just like they're going to make a run, we're going to make a run, and we're going to be able to keep it close. So I think that he's going to be able, especially if Mikal's not on him, I think that he'll be able to make a couple shots. I want to see how fast New Orleans can play, though.
Yeah,
I want to see, because if they can actually get up and down and just start creating more possessions and more opportunities for themselves, then I think that'll work. Obviously, Chris Paul is going to control the pace of this game to the T, right? He's gonna make sure that this game goes exactly how he wants it. And so especially like in a playoff setting, you're gonna see Chris Paul be a little bit more like decisive. Devin Booker is going to start doing his, his Kobe impression, his little ISO, and the game might slow down on their end. If Ingram can get up and down the floor, they can start throwing lobs to Jackson Hayes, right? See if we can get some energy plays that way. I think that's going to be the only chance that they get to getting a game. But 10.5 is a bit much. The Suns were 19-22 against the spread at home this year.
Okay.
Which is actually kind of surprising considering.
Yeah, I thought they would have been better than that.
Yeah, considering how great of a team that they were, especially at home. So I think New Orleans might have enough to get by today, and I think you saw this, and it's a different situation because you had somebody get hurt. But yesterday in the Utah Dallas game, that was a situation where you thought that, hey, this Dallas team with no Luka might just get ran off the floor, and at points it looked like that, but you just see the playoff element coming into it, and now it's like people start to play above their normal pay grade, and so I think New Orleans will have a little bit of that today.
I think that's a really good point. I think that the thing for New Orleans it's gonna have to come down to is like Willie Green. We saw he tried to make the adjustment when Tyronn Lue went small. He took Jackson Hayes and Jonas Valanciunas out of the game. Like Suns stick with their normal starting lineup. It's small. Like Jay Crowder is technically their 4. Like they'll have Ayton in there. So like I wonder if he rolls with Jackson Hayes and just says we're going to try and kill him on the glass, or if he's going to go to Trey Murphy maybe because he had a really good game in the play-in a little bit more and have him play like a small ball 4. That is where I'm intrigued because this is a good coaching matchup again too. Like Willie Green has really turned this team around, and then you have Monty Williams on the other side, the coach of the year. So we know Phoenix is going to play the way they want to play. Like they're not going to adjust, I don't think, to anything the Pelicans do in terms of like changing their lineup around. Like they're going to start their guys. They're going to bring Cam Johnson off the bench. They're going to play their game. I'm very intrigued to see if it doesn't work for the Pels early, how Willie Green adjusts. Like, does he go to Tony Snell again? Like, I don't know if he can. I don't know if you can, like, after how bad he was in the play-in. So that's going to be interesting to me. You mentioned Devin Booker going ISO. I'm taking Devin Booker over 36.5 points, rebounds, and assists is my best bet in this game. Cleared this line in 11 of his last 14 games. It's just scoring the ball a ton. He's basically putting up 30 almost every single night. And the Pelicans over their last 10 games, they're 20th in defensive rating, which is kind of surprising because their defense is kind of what got them back in the play-in conversation. Yeah. But like we said, with CJ on the floor now, you're just not nearly as good of a defensive team from the top. So I'm intrigued to see what happens. Devin Booker probably draws Herb Jones, which I don't love, but I also just like it's Devin Booker. Like we're talking, it's like similar to saying like, oh, well, Kevin Durant's if he was going to draw somebody like, oh, Kevin Durant's drawing Mikal Bridges tonight. It's like, yeah, but it's Kevin Durant. So like, I'm going to give D-Book the benefit of the doubt. I think if he needs to, he's shown this entire season he can create for his teammates as well. I think he's really taken a step as a playmaker. So 36.5 points, rebounds, assists. He might get there on points alone if he has a really good game. So I love it at that number.
That line is very, very interesting. And I 100% agree with what you said in terms of like it's Devin Booker. You know, like I think sometimes we may get caught up in like, oh, like they have this defense, they have this defense. Sometimes you just have to look at a guy and be like, he's him. Like he's that guy. And so you mentioned Tony Snell, complete pivot. I need one thing from Tony Snell. I need him to play as many minutes as possible and get 0 stats.
He had 0 stats on the play-in. It was only 9 minutes, or it was only like 4 minutes though.
Bro, my favorite thing is whenever like you go on Twitter and like if somebody did something like stupid or whatever, they'll post the meme of Tony Snell, and it's like 28 minutes, no points, rebounds, assists, 5 fouls, something like that. Just something just stupid and ignorant. It's so funny, and I need Tony Snell to just keep giving me those moments, and that's all I need. All right, we got a little bit of time left here. Let's get to our best bets of the day. You've had a lot of your best bets for each of this game. Which one is your favorite for day 2 of the NBA playoffs?
Yes, sir. So yesterday I was 2-2. I've been betting every game in the play-ins and the playoffs. So right now I'm 7-3 since the play-in started. 2-2 yesterday. Missed on the Raptors and the under in the Wolves Grizzlies game, which I gave out as my best bet. yesterday, so that's tough. Don't love that. Should have given out a different one. But my best bet today, this one I really love. It's the Bucks first half spread -5.5. Milwaukee's just been really good in first halves of games this year. They're +4 in the first half overall throughout the 82 game regular season. And at home, they're +5.8 points in the first half. They've also gone 46-36 against the spread in the first half this year. So very solid team. We talked about how like they can just run this Bulls team off the floor. They beat up on the Bulls, that they swept them during the regular season this year. And the Bulls have not been great in the first half, 39-43 against the spread. They're actually -0.2 points on average in the first half. So I think Milwaukee, like, I don't think this is a game where it's like, oh, they slug it out and Milwaukee takes control down the stretch. Like, I think this is a game like Milwaukee is pretty much in control the entire game. I don't think Chicago defensively, like I said, 28th in defensive rating over their last 10 games. They're one of the worst teams in the NBA right now. Like, if you look at the advanced numbers, they're playing horribly. So yeah, they got the 6th seed in the Eastern Conference, but they're just not playing well enough. So I think the Bucks handle them pretty easily. And I like the first half line more than the full game, like 5.5 in the first half. I can deal with that. 10.5 at the end of the game. We saw it at the end of some of the last games yesterday. Like, everybody's playing to the buzzer. So like you might get that sneaky backdoor cover. And I'm just like, I don't want to deal with that. I'll go with the first half.
Yeah. Listen, Chicago got the 6th seed because they fell. Because they fell, right? It wasn't like, oh, we powered through the season. Like they started to suck, and so they fell. I'm gonna stay in this game, but I'm actually gonna take the line that you don't like, and so I'm gonna take Bucks -10.5. Bro, Chicago just has nothing for them. I don't know, like I there's just no other way for me to say it. I don't think that Chicago has anything to do. I don't think that there's an adjustment that they can make that can stop Milwaukee. If Giannis is there and he's healthy, and even if he's not, like if something crazy would have happened, knock on wood, but like if Giannis weren't in the series, I would still pick Milwaukee to win. Right? I would still pick them to beat Chicago because they just don't know what to do. And when you add the fact that it's Giannis Antetokounmpo, and now that Brook Lopez is back, they've been playing with Bobby P. They either say we're going to kill you on offense with our death lineup, or we're going to put Brook Lopez back in the middle, and we're going to let Giannis play his like natural defensive position and just let him roam and go. And if there's nobody in the paint to stop him, if you don't have the capabilities to form a wall and force him to take jumpers, I don't see how you can keep this game close. So they've beaten them by double digits several times this year.
Yeah.
I think it happens again. Hopefully today goes much, much better than yesterday, because I was 0 for 4 yesterday. Had the Jazz hit a little backdoor cover because of free throws.
Yeah, that was tough, dude. You called that game
5.5.
yesterday. You called it, and it went exactly how you wanted to. And then the very end, the 2 free throws, and it was just like, man,
killed me. I was legit praying for overtime, because I wanted Dallas to just get another chance to just keep it a little bit close. But so that game failed me. Obviously, Memphis lost, Toronto lost, and then Denver couldn't stay on the floor. So we did not start off great, right? we did not start off great, but bouncing back. We're both of us on locks only, locks only.
That's what we're hoping. That's what we're hoping today.
Exactly. But that's all for us today. We'll be back on, I guess next Saturday.
Next Saturday.
Yeah, when the first round continues. Remember our new time, 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Pacific time if you are up early. Thank you guys for rocking with us this week, and may all your bets hit. And we will see you guys next time.